Welcome to I-24 News Defense Magazine. I'm Alon Ben David, and tonight we're on the Israeli-Lebanese border, where 9 years ago, Hezbollah, Lebanese militia, launched an attack against Israeli soldiers, kidnapping 2 Israeli troops and triggering a 33 days long conflict, which was known since as the Second Lebanon War. Tonight with us is General Moshe Kaplinsky, IDF Deputy Chief of Staff during the war, and together we'll try to figure out how this war looks like in perspective and what are the chances that Israel will go to another conflict with Lebanon. Let's begin. On the morning of July 12, 2006, Hezbollah militia launched a surprise attack on an Israeli patrol, killing 3 Israeli soldiers and kidnapping 2 more, which were killed during the kidnapping. In return, Israel responded with a full-scale war against the Hezbollah militia, which lasted 33 days. Charles Biblizer, I-24 News editor, recaps the events.
For 33 days in 2006, the IDF and Hezbollah squared off in a war that would see southern Lebanon invaded and much of northern Israel come under intense rocket fire. The conflict was precipitated by Hezbollah's July 12th attack on 2 armored vehicles patrolling the Israeli side of the border. The ambush left 3 IDF soldiers dead and 2 more were abducted and taken to Lebanon. Then Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert described the kidnapping as an act of war.
I'm here to say that there won't be any mistake. Our response will be thorough and painful. We won't hesitate to take all the necessary action in order to put an end to the terror coming from Lebanon.
Shunning any prisoner exchange, Israel responded with airstrikes and artillery fire. Ground forces were also eventually deployed. For its part, Hezbollah launched thousands of missiles and engaged the IDF in guerrilla warfare from hardened positions. On August 14, 2006, a UN-brokered ceasefire went into effect, with Security Council Resolution 1701 calling for the disarmament of Hezbollah, the withdrawal of Israeli soldiers from Lebanon, and for the deployment of an enlarged international force to monitor the shared border. Overall, the fighting had killed some 1,200 Lebanese people and 165 Israelis. It displaced hundreds of thousands more on both sides. Nearly a decade later, a debate rages on, with many Israelis maintaining the government was not prepared for the war and thus mismanaged it.
With us this evening is retired Major General Moshe Kaplinsky, former IDF Deputy Chief of Staff during the days of the Second Lebanon War. General Kaplinsky, thank you for joining us.
Good evening.
In perspective of 9 years, how do you view the war today?
We have 9 years of peaceful, quiet life along the Lebanese border. We can see Hezbollah deployed along the border. We see involvement of international forces here and there. So the situation here is completely different.
But the UN Security Council resolution which ended the war, 1701, wasn't completely implemented in southern Lebanon. Hezbollah is still present there.
Hezbollah still controls Lebanon, we know it. And Hezbollah, although they are very busy in Syria these days, preparing themselves to the next round with Israel. But it's completely different situation. 9 years ago, we could see from this point soldiers of terrorists from Hezbollah organization. And if you travel along the border, you could see their flags. They're present all over, which you can't see today.
You remember the days after the war. The general mood in Israel was that this war is a miss, that we failed in this war. Did we miss to see what the war did to the other side? Did we create the deterrence that we were hoping to make?
I believe that we can divide it to two areas. First, the war itself and the results, and we were sure those days as well that we hurt Hezbollah deeply. We create the feeling in their side that the intelligence of Israel is much better than what they thought. Our military capability is much better than what they thought, and our willingness to fight is completely different. But on the other hand, from the military point of view, we know that we could do it better and faster. And after the war, we started a long process of debriefing, learning what happened, and the feeling was that we could do it better.
Many Israelis are looking today at Hezbollah and wondering when will be the next conflict with them. Do you foresee an imminent conflict with them?
I don't know when. I can't give you the right date, but the exact date. But we see Hezbollah. They're preparing. Their arsenal is based on thousands of long-range missiles from all kinds. There are only few states that has the same missile arsenals, like terror organization we're sitting here, Hezbollah. So we have to be ready for the next round. And if there will be no real change in the Middle East completely, if Iran will not change its attitude toward this area, I believe that we will be in next round. I'm not sure that it will be next week, but in the coming future.
But for 8 years, they refrained from firing a single shot along the border. Yet, earlier this year, in January, they launched an attack on an Israeli convoy, killing 2 Israeli soldiers. Does that signal that they are ready to take greater risks with Israel?
I'm not sure that they are ready to do it today. They are deeply involved in Syria. The situation over there is not bad, is not good from their point of view. They have a lot of casualties over there, and I believe that they don't get the same support that they got in the past from the civilian in Lebanon because their involvement in Syria. But they are ready, and I don't know to tell you the exact day, but it will come.
So for the Israelis, you can say this summer, you can come and enjoy the north?
Yes, you can come and enjoy it.
General Kaplinsky, thank you very much for joining us. We're here in Rosh Hanikra on the Israeli-Lebanese border, marking the 9th anniversary of the Second Lebanon War with Sivan Yechieli, head of Northern Front Communities in Israel. Good evening.
Good evening.
Before we'll talk about the life of Israelis living along the Israeli-Lebanese border, let's take a look at Hezbollah. Hezbollah suffered a significant military blow during the conflict in 2006, but it didn't stop them from replenishing their stockpiles of missiles and rockets, deploying today a total of 100,000 missiles and rockets aimed at Israel in Lebanon. Loren Izo takes a look at Hezbollah.
Hezbollah suffered a devastating blow during the 2006 war with Israel. Virtually down and out, the international community committed to fully disarming the group. But this would not come to pass. Instead, Hezbollah has today morphed into the largest military force of any non-state actor in the world. With some 100,000 rockets pointed towards Israel, the Lebanese Shiite militia is a formidable foe.
If you assume we are busy elsewhere and that it changes how we deal with our Israeli enemy, you are wrong. This changes nothing, except that it should scare and concern Israel.
Hezbollah has developed into an organization with seats in the Lebanese government. It has a radio and satellite television station and programs for social development. Its reach has also expanded with a large-scale deployment of fighters beyond Lebanon's borders. Nowhere more so than in Syria, where Hezbollah has been the Assad regime's salvation. It is unlikely the government could have survived this long without Hezbollah's direct support on the ground. Members of the Lebanese group are also reportedly fighting alongside Shiite militias in Iraq. Meanwhile, Hezbollah has attempted numerous terror attacks against Israelis throughout the world, most notably the successful bombing of a tourist bus in Burgas, Bulgaria in 2012, which killed 6 people. The group currently poses the greatest military threat to Jerusalem, with a future war expected to cause mass casualties and possibly shut down the country's economic centers for months.
Thank you for joining us, Sivan Yechieli.
It's a pleasure.
What changed in the lives of Israelis living along the Israeli-Lebanese border before 2006 and after?
I think that the period after 2006 is really a quiet period. Relatively, I think the most quiet period in the last maybe 40 years. So the Lebanese border as a whole has really enjoyed the fruits of 2006.
So for you, the war was a success?
War is never a success, but for me, the fact that we have quiet for a long time, we have peace, or we don't have fire, from the Lebanese border for such a long time is a great success. Absolutely.
But the war itself was quite traumatic for many of the communities. We've seen communities devastated by the fire of Hezbollah during the conflict. How much did it affect the people that live here?
I think that the main question at the time was the leadership in the community. Some communities really collapsed, especially weaker communities
Economically?
Socio-economically, found themselves without shelter, without really having answers to basic needs. And I think that they really suffered quite a bit. Others found themselves, either communities were strong and could support themselves, and others went to the center of Israel where they could have found shelter. Overall, I don't think it was such a traumatic event. It was a traumatic event, I think, in the national view, but overall, you know, the total damage at the time was 0.5% of the GDP, so it wasn't that traumatic. However, it was the first time that such a large percentage of Israeli population was under fire for such a long time.
Still, most of the Israelis were watching the war on television. The war affected mostly the people living here, but in Tel Aviv, people were watching the war on TV.
Well, first of all, it's a good thing that Tel Aviv didn't have to suffer at the time. That's a good thing. But yes, absolutely, only a small minority really felt the power of what was happening here, and that's mainly the people living along the front line.
But we won't have that luxury in the next conflict with Hezbollah.
Well, the next conflict is going to be most likely far more devastating than what we've seen up to now. So first of all, it's going to reach far more to the south. It's going to reach probably Tel Aviv and maybe further from Tel Aviv. I think that what's going to happen here is going to be extremely difficult to cope with. It's going to be the magnitude of fire that's going to come on Israeli towns is unprecedented. So I think it's going to be, and you know, there's other fears. You talked about it with Major General Kaplinsky.
How much time are you, as a local leader, investing in preparing for such a conflict?
I think that over the last 7 years, we've been investing quite a lot of time. A major part of our, we see it as a major part of our duties. So the local municipalities, the local authorities here, spend a lot of time and invest a lot of money into preparing themselves so they will be able to cope in an emergency, in wartime.
And people in your community are looking at this summer anxiously, or they are confident that we're going to have a calm summer?
You know, I think that we're all happy that we're going to, we all hope that we're going to have a calm summer, you know, a peaceful summer. But I think that we're all aware that things can go out of control very quickly in this region. And we see the uncertainty on the other side of the border. And we are aware that it could be either exploited or deteriorate for any reason, either to a local events, small events, or to a full-scale war.
So let's hope that calm will prevail. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
For many Israelis, it's not a question of if, but rather when would be the next conflict with Hezbollah, yet Israel is threatening to use massive force against Hezbollah and against infrastructure of the Lebanese state in any future conflict. Here's more.
Reports coming out of Israel suggest that the Ministry of Military Affairs has staged a series of exercises in preparation for a possible war against the Lebanese resistance movement, Hezbollah.
The IDF is indeed preparing for what many analysts consider inevitable, a third Lebanon war. In the interim, preemptive measures are commonplace. In January, for example, Israel Air Force helicopters reportedly struck a target in the Syrian Golan Heights, killing 6 Hezbollah members, including Jihad Mournier, the son of a former Hezbollah operations chief. In cooperation with Iran, Hezbollah was allegedly attempting to set up military bases in the area. Leaders of the Jewish state have thus warned Israelis not to take for granted the relative quiet in the north, as Hezbollah is well-armed and battle-tested after fighting in Syria for years. According to Israeli media, just last week, the IDF conducted an exercise simulating a Hezbollah capture of a town in the northern Galilee.
Lebanon has been taken over de facto by Hezbollah, a proxy of Iran. Hezbollah's leader announced that he intends to conquer the Galilee. Well, I have news for you. He won't.
Recently, the IDF drafted a so-called reference scenario detailing a future conflict with Hezbollah. The document predicts that an average of 1,200 rockets per day would be launched from Lebanon into Israel, causing hundreds of civilian casualties. In an attempt to neutralize this threat, Israel is currently working on 2 new defense systems, the Arrow 3 and David Sling, to intercept medium and long-range missiles.
We can meet the challenges of Hezbollah, and we should go on fighting with the military, with the law, in all the arenas, and I'm sure that we are going to prevail.
That's all we have time for tonight. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to visit us again next week for another edition of I-24 News Defense. From here, from the Israeli-Lebanese border, we wish you a safe night.